My name is Alexandra Chen, and 2 weeks ago I sat in my corner office on the 42nd floor of our Manhattan headquarters, reviewing final round interview candidates for a senior director position. The HR file that crossed my desk made me freeze. Marcus Whitmore. My ex-boyfriend who 3 years ago told me I was too ambitious, too driven, and that my career obsession was ruining our relationship. He was applying to work at my company, the company I built from nothing after he walked away. And I was the one who would decide if he got the job. But let me tell you how a woman who was told she cared too much about success turned that exact trait into a billion-dollar empire. Because this story begins in a Boston penthouse where I learned that being too ambitious for a man means you're exactly ambitious enough for yourself. 3 years ago, I was 29 and working as a senior product manager at a tech company in Boston. I was good at my job, climbing fast, regularly putting in 70-hour weeks because I loved what I did. I was building an idea on the side too, a SaaS platform that would revolutionize how mid-sized companies managed remote teams. This was early 2021. Remote work was exploding, and I saw a massive gap in the market. I was coding at night, pitching to investors on weekends, running on caffeine and ambition. Marcus and I had been together for 2 years. He came from serious old money. His family had banking wealth going back generations. He worked at his father's investment firm in a role that was more title than responsibility. Marcus was charming, generous, and comfortable in a way that only inherited wealth allows. We'd met at a charity gala, dated seriously, and I thought we were building toward something permanent. I was wrong. The breaking point came on a Saturday night in March. I'd canceled our dinner plans because I had a pitch meeting with a potential investor the next morning. It wasn't the first time I'd canceled plans for work, and Marcus was done with it. He showed up at my apartment at 9 p.m., and I could tell from his face that something had shifted. "Alex, we need to talk. This isn't working anymore." I closed my laptop. "What do you mean?" He sat down, and his voice was calm but final. "You're always working. You're obsessed with this startup idea that probably won't even succeed. You canceled our vacation last month for a product launch. You missed my mother's birthday dinner for a client meeting. I need someone who's present, who values relationships as much as career. You're too ambitious, Alex. It's exhausting being with someone who's never satisfied, who's always chasing the next goal." I stared at him, trying to process what I was hearing. "Too ambitious? Marcus, I'm building something meaningful. This is important to me. I thought you understood that." He shook his head. "I understand that your career will always come first, and I'm not willing to be second place anymore. My mother was right. You're not the kind of woman who's built for a real partnership. You're too focused on proving something." Those words hit like ice water. Not the kind of woman built for partnership. Too focused on proving something. I felt anger rising in my chest. What I'm hearing is that you want someone who'll organize their life around your convenience. Someone who doesn't have their own ambitions. I'm not that person, Marcus. I never will be. He stood up. "Then I guess we're done here. I hope your startup works out, Alex. I really do. But I think you'll find that success is pretty lonely when you have no one to share it with." He left. I sat in my empty apartment feeling like I'd been gutted. Part of me wondered if he was right. Was I too ambitious? Was I sacrificing too much for a dream that might fail? I cried for about an hour. Then something shifted. I got angry. Not at Marcus, but at the idea that ambition was something to apologize for. That wanting to build something meaningful made me less worthy of love. I wiped my face, opened my laptop, and got back to work. If I was going to be too ambitious for someone, I might as well be ambitious enough to actually succeed. The pitch meeting the next morning went well. I secured my first real investor, $250,000 for 10% equity. That money let me quit my job and work full-time on what would become CoreSync, a platform for remote team management that integrated communication, project tracking, and productivity analytics. I assembled a small team, 3 engineers and a designer, all of us working out of a co-working space in Cambridge, living on ramen and belief. The first year was brutal. We launched in June 2021 to moderate interest, signed our first 50 customers by September, and nearly ran out of money by December. I was working 100-hour weeks, coding, selling, managing, doing customer support myself. I had no social life, no relationship, no time for anything except building. And I loved it. Every small win felt like validation. Every customer who chose us over competitors felt like proof that I'd been right to bet on myself. Have you ever poured everything into something just to prove someone wrong? Let me know in the comments, because that's what fueled me through 18 months of uncertainty and struggle. By early 2022, something clicked. Our platform was genuinely better than competitors, more intuitive, and more powerful. Customer retention was excellent. Word of mouth was spreading. We raised a Series A in March, $5 million led by a respected Boston VC. That let us hire aggressively, build out features, and scale our sales team. By the end of 2022, we had 5,000 customers and were approaching $10 million in annual recurring revenue. I saw Marcus once during this period at a mutual friend's wedding in the fall of 2022. He was there with a new girlfriend, someone pretty and uncomplicated who worked in event planning. He congratulated me on CoreSync's growth, which he'd apparently heard about through the Boston tech community. "Looks like it's working out for you, Alex. I'm glad." His tone was pleasant but slightly condescending, like he was humoring a child's achievement. I smiled and thanked him, but inside I was thinking, you have no idea how big this is going to get. The real explosion came in 2023. Remote work had fully normalized, and mid-sized companies were desperate for better tools. CoreSync hit product market fit hard. We grew from 5,000 to 50,000 customers in 12 months. Revenue went from $10 million to $120 million. We raised a Series B in June, $40 million at a $300 million valuation. Then a Series C in November, $150 million at a $1 billion valuation. CoreSync was officially a unicorn, and I was suddenly on Forbes 30 Under 30, on tech podcast interviews, being profiled as one of the most successful female founders in enterprise software. We opened offices in New York, San Francisco, and London. We hired aggressively, growing from 30 employees to 300. I hired an executive team with experience at Salesforce, Slack, and Microsoft. We were no longer a scrappy startup. We were a real company with real scale, and I was the CEO of a billion-dollar business at 32 years old. The woman who was too ambitious had built exactly what she'd envisioned. Meanwhile, Marcus's life was going differently.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.
I heard through mutual connections that his father's investment firm had taken losses in 2023, that Marcus had been pushed into a more demanding role, that the trust fund lifestyle was less certain than it had been. I didn't take pleasure in his struggles, but I noticed them. The universe has a way of teaching lessons. Then 2 weeks ago, the HR file crossed my desk. Marcus Whitmore had applied for a Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships position at CoreSync. His resume showed he'd been working in business development roles, most recently at a struggling fintech startup that had laid off half its staff. He was looking for stability and growth, and he'd applied to my company. I called our Chief People Officer. Did Marcus Whitmore know I was CEO when he applied? She checked the notes. He mentioned in his cover letter that he'd followed CoreSync's growth and was impressed by the leadership. He didn't specifically mention knowing you, but given your profile, he'd have to know. So he knew. He'd applied anyway. That meant either he was desperate, or he thought enough time had passed that it wouldn't matter. Or maybe he thought I'd already forgotten about him. I made a decision. Move him forward in the process. I want to observe his final round interview. Our Chief People Officer looked surprised. You want to sit in on the interview? That's unusual for your level. I smiled. Let's call it a special interest in this particular candidate. Schedule it for next week. The interview was yesterday. Conference room on the 41st floor, floor-to-ceiling windows with views of Manhattan. The panel was our VP of Partnerships, our Chief Revenue Officer, and me. When Marcus walked in and saw me sitting at the table, I watched the color drain from his face. He'd known I was CEO, but seeing me there in person, in my position of power, clearly hit differently than knowing it abstractly. Marcus, good to see you again, I said calmly, gesturing to the seat across from us. Please, sit down. Let's talk about why you're interested in coursing. He sat, visibly uncomfortable, trying to recover his composure. Alex, Miss Chen, I've been following Coursing's growth for the past year. Your platform is genuinely innovative, and I believe my experience in strategic partnerships could add value to your expansion plans. My chief revenue officer jumped in with technical questions about his experience, his deal pipeline from previous roles, his understanding of our market. Marcus answered competently. He was actually qualified for the role, which made the situation more complex. This wasn't about him being unqualified. It was about something else entirely. After 20 minutes, I spoke up. Marcus, I'm curious about something. 3 years ago, you told me I was too ambitious, that my career focus made me unsuitable for a real partnership. What changed? Because CoreSync is the company I was building when you left. The obsession you called exhausting is what created this. The room went silent. My executives looked uncomfortable but stayed quiet. Marcus took a breath. Alex, I was wrong. I was comfortable and complacent, and your drive made me uncomfortable because it highlighted my own lack of purpose. You were building something meaningful, and I was coasting on family money and expectations. Breaking up with you is one of the biggest regrets of my life, not because of CoreSync's success, but because I lost someone exceptional because I couldn't handle her excellence. I appreciated the honesty, but it didn't change the fundamental question. So now you want to work here? At the company you dismissed? Under the leadership of the woman who was too ambitious? He met my eyes. I want to work somewhere that's building something that matters. Somewhere led by someone who actually cares about creating value. Yes, that means working for you. And yes, I understand the irony. But I'm a different person than I was 3 years ago. Losing my safety net taught me what you already knew, that comfort is overrated and purpose matters. After the interview ended, my executives and I debated the situation. Our chief revenue officer was pragmatic. He's qualified. He has the right experience and connections. But obviously there's personal history here, and that's your call. I thought about it for a day. Then I made my decision. I called Marcus personally. Marcus, I've decided to extend you an offer for the senior director position. Competitive salary, standard equity package, start date in 3 weeks. But I need to be very clear about something. You'll be working here because you're qualified, not because of our past. Our personal history is exactly that, history. If you take this job, it's professional only. Can you handle that? There was a pause. Yes. Thank you, Alex. I won't let you down. He starts next month. I don't know how it'll work out. Maybe it'll be awkward. Maybe it'll be fine. But here's what I realized. Giving him the job isn't about revenge or proving anything. It's about running my company well and hiring qualified people. The revenge, if you want to call it that, already happened. It happened when I built CoreSync into something undeniable. When I proved that being too ambitious meant I was exactly ambitious enough. Marcus was wrong about me 3 years ago, and the best response wasn't to hold a grudge. It was to succeed so completely that his opinion became irrelevant. Now, he'll work at the company he told me would probably fail. He'll report to executives I hired. He'll see every day what too ambitious actually builds. And I'll run my billion-dollar company the same way I would with any other employee. Here's what I learned. Being told you're too ambitious by someone who's comfortable is actually a compliment. It means you're threatening their complacency. The best revenge isn't denying someone an opportunity. It's succeeding so thoroughly that they have to acknowledge you were right all along. And sometimes, letting someone into your success is more powerful than keeping them out, because they'll see every day what they walked away from. CoreSync is valued at $1.2 billion now. We're hiring across all departments. We're expanding into Europe and Asia. I'm 32, running a company that's changing how millions of people work, and I'm exactly as ambitious as I need to be. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. If you think watching an ex regret his words was satisfying, wait until you hear about the woman whose business partner pushed her out of their fashion startup, claiming she lacked commercial vision, only to watch her launch a competing brand that outsold his within 2 years and eventually forced him to shut down. The Fashion Week moment when her collection opened to standing ovation while his lines struggled for buyers is the kind of indication that proves creative vision combined with business sense beats ego every time. That story's next. Thanks for watching. And remember, when someone says you're too ambitious, they're really just admitting they're not ambitious enough to keep up with you.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.